Good morning, everyone. We'll be starting in a few minutes. Let's wait a bit for others to join. Okay, so I guess we can start. So good morning, everyone, once again. Today we'll be learning about hosting and deploying websites. As we all know, it's not enough for us to just build the websites locally. We need to also host it on the net, operate on the net where everybody can see it. And to do that, you need to learn about hosting and how to deploy a website. So the instructor to take us through that will be Mr. Joshua. So Mr. Joshua, you can unmute yourself and start.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Once again. Yeah, thank you. Can we start the class? Is the class recorded? Is it live on YouTube? So I can always play the participant.
Recording in progress.
All right, thank you. Okay, so straight to the point. Over some months now, we've been talking about websites, writing code, writing HTML, CSS, moving padding, moving everything up and down, flexbox, and the rest. So why are we writing websites? Why are we designing websites? That's the question. Are we just designing just to be on our system for us to be able to display it around for to show the world that we can build the website on our local system? No, and that is where we come to the point of how can we share our websites? We are building a fantastic project. Is it going to be on your local system forever, or the whole world will have access to see it? That is why we are talking about those things now. I want to believe that you can hear me and audible enough. Yeah, all right, thank you. Okay, so we are going to go to the course outline for this course. Oh, sorry. I was muted. Okay. So the course outline for this course. So this is the course outline. We are going to look at uh, hosting. What is web hosting? Then what are the types of web hosting? Then we are going to look at domain name. What have you heard of domain name before and what they do? Then we are going to look at deployment, how the deployment works. We are going to look at hosting providers. Yeah. Then we are going to look at development workflow. Then we are going to look at the best practices out there. Then Q&A and the bonus material. So without too much information, we are going to start. What is web hosting? All right. So as earlier said in my introductions, we will look at how we are building websites before now, and we can only see it on our own local host. So what is web hosting? Web hosting is like a service store. Like for instance, if you look at your normal computer system, you have your file saved in your computer system. but this is local to your system alone. And that is why you need to have a kind of a platform where we are able to deploy this site. So web hosting is a service that stores website files and make them accessible via the internet. Okay. So so if you have all your files that you have written all your code in, and then you want to put it online, or you want to allow people to have access to it, you have to, there's a need for you to share it on a centralized platform. Okay? Like when we look at the issue of the website, we saw that the idea of building website comes from we building the ability for us to share our resources with more than large number of people without physical contacts. And that is the essence of building website. So when you want to look at how to share that file, there has to be a central system. What I mean by central system is a system that everybody has access to. For instance, if you host your website on your PC now, on your local server, and you, for those people that are into networking, those are networks that they understand what I'm saying. So if you set up a NAN network, that is a local area network, and then you enable people to be able to join via IP address by sharing hotspots or all those kind of network. They will have access to that website. But now, let's say those people are not in your network. How will they have access to it? And that is why we have so many methods of hosting and applications. For instance, if you look at applications like your CBT that you do in your school, is also hosted. And they have to consider so many things before they host it. So look at your school application. You can't just go to any URL or any IP address and access it if you are not on that internet. If you are not on that network, you will not be able to access it. So the accessibility, to give people accessibility, to have access to all those your files, that is why we are doing hosting. So as you can see that you have gone through development, web development, a full stack web developer, there is need for you to know hosting. Hosting is a role on its own, like a job on its own. You don't take it as a full-blown job. Organizations like banks now, for instance, they will need someone that is an hosting expert to be able to handle all their servers because of the major services they run. But you as the upcoming web developers, you know, you only do light skills website, like you do e-commerce website for Mama Toyin and Sons kitchen and food restaurants. So all those ones, you just want to easily let people able to add the URL and log into it, and then be able to have their service there. So you not to host those ones should take you much work as compared to all those larger organizations like bank. All right, so you want to host your. I still believe that we can hear me clearly on Zoom or YouTube. All right, so you want to host your Mama Tony restaurant website. as a web developer, you should be able to do that with no much constraint. And that is why we are going into development. So at the end of this class, you should be able to do all those my news posting. All right, so let's go to the. All right, so we are looking at hosting providers, server, storage, and networking. So, like I said in my discussions, that there's no way you want to talk about hosting that you mention networking. You won't mention storage and you won't mention provider. So I will pick from storage first, so that we now look at how what provider does. So if you look at your simple computer system, for instance, some of us have 212 disk space, some of us have 512, some of us have terabyte, all those disk space. Those are storage spaces. So if you write your file, for instance, your HTML code, for instance, and you go and check the file size, you see that that is space that can accommodate them in your system. So if you want to host a server, you have your site, you have to consider all those storage. Now let's now go to what provider does. Now we've talked about the essence of putting your site in a central based system. So how can we achieve a central based system? Like I said, you can host your site in your own personal computer and share it over network. When I discussed about network, that was the first topic, that was the first discussion, network. But how many people can you give access to? Like, for instance, I make an example on your CBT that you do. It's only the people you give access to that can have access to all those things. And that's why we need a provider that can help us be able to do that. So, hosting providers are what we use to achieve our hosting if we want to host our site. Now, let's come to domains. What does domain mean? Now, everybody, if you want to log into University of Ilorin site, you just go to www.unilorin.edu.ng and it's rendered the page site to you. Alright? So that name Unilorin is what is referred to as domain. And that domain has to be unique in all the universe. There is only one www.edu.ng and it is assigned to Unilorin. And it's been done by domain registrar. So there is a server and it's a domain registrar where all these names are being registered. And it's centrally controlled such that it syncs with any servers to be able to know that, oh, this is the domain name for a particular document or a particular site you want to open or want to visit. Yeah. So that's what the importance of why domain is there. All right. So let's go on. So what are the type of web hosting? All right. So there are several models. I know if you can hear me, just put in the comment that I will follow you. There are several models in web hosting. All right, for those of us just joining the class, you can still catch up. So that's why you're not going to come in it. So now, what is the idea behind this model for web hosting? If you look at it, we have shared hosting, VPS, dedicated hosting, and cloud hosting. So now, there are things that make us to have this model. Let me explain how this model comes into place. When you say you want to host a site, what you are actually doing is simply you are copying your code and you are putting it into someone's system. There is a physical device which are called data centers. You have heard of it, data centers. We have heard of undersea cables. if you are coming to IT, all this word should not be related to you. You are aware of all those things. So these are called data. They are data centers. So all these data centers are physical computer systems, just like your system that has bits, RAM, processors, all those things. So they are data centers that has all these things. So on these data centers, they build some infrastructures. Most of them are supervisors of this on all these things. So all this architecture they build on it is what gives you the interface to host. For instance, if I go to GoDaddy now and I want to host my site, that interface you are seeing is built based on some infrastructures for you to have access to the portal to host your site. So what you are doing when you are hosting is that you are moving, you are copying your file and you are saving it in a company, in another person's systems, majorly hosting provider systems. So that's all the simple things you are doing. So now this hosting provider now offer packages to help you to host faster. And that's the packages I don't want to look at now. So we have shared hosting. So what does shared hosting contains? So you know when I mentioned that there is an IP that is attached to system during the introductions. So what happened with shared hosting is that we have a big computer system in a data center. Okay, we have a big computer system in a data center. So that big computer system in the data center is what we typically put our file in. So it's what we typically put our file in. Yeah. So I want to show us example of what data center looks like. So I think it's better I explain with email. So we should have seen so many of people that work in movies a lot. We'll have seen something like this. So these are called data centers. So all these things that I are seeing, let me see one that has good pictures. Okay, let's look at this one that has human being. So if you look at this one now, so let me expand. Yeah, I want it to be more clearer. Okay. So let's look at these data centers now. So these are how data centers look like. It's just all these things that you are looking, all these boxes that you are looking, they are boxes filled with systems. Those are that is familiar with desktop. So these are systems. So you can see racks. So this is one system, one system, one system, one system. So it's just a rack of systems. So in each of these systems, I are seeing a rack of. So I'm not to explain the theory of shareholding now. So in all the system you are seeing on this rack on, they are networks. So we are not going to go into networking, but I want to give you a bit of the networking. So they are networks into one server. Some of them it could be those of you that understand networking, parallel networking, series networking. So majorly they are parallel network because of redundancy, such that if any of these systems fail, you know there could be system failure. Another system can be as a backup and still power your server. But let me go to the theory of shared host now. So let's say a system is network and a server is now delivered for a particular user. So for instance, in sharehold, millions of users, millions of sites can be using one server. Okay? So the one server I'm talking about does not necessarily mean one system because of redundancy sake. It will be multiple systems, but all network together on one IP. So now, multiple websites can be using one server. And that is what is called shared hosting. You have different sites, for instance, Plain Tomato and Son restaurant website, Peter and Co restaurant, Peter and Co construction website. All those websites, all those companies, they will be sharing one infrastructure, one device, one server for their hosting, and it is one of the cheapest means of hosting, and that is the reason why, as a new developer or new web developer, you typically use share hosting, because number one, it is easy to host and it is pocket friendly to host with shared hosting. Okay, so what is VPS or private server hosting? All right, so VPS or private server hosting work similarly but differ, because the difference between VPS is that VPS will give you your own unique IP address. Okay. Oh, you see the same theory with share host, but unlike shared host, where different companies using one IP address, in VPS you have access to your IP address, and you have access to a VM, which is your own virtual machines. So the way virtual machine works, it works similarly as your computer. So the way your computer work, for instance, if you open your computer now, you want to go and play your favorite movie now. All you just need to do is open your computer, you go to your folder, then you click on your folder, you see your favorite movie and you play it. That's it. So that's how that virtual machine also works too. It gives you your own machine, but unlike you having physical HP laptop, having physical Lenovo, Dell, and the rest, you have it called virtual. And so anything, the way you handle your Lenovo, everything, that's the same way you handle your virtual that's the same way you handle the virtual machines too, because it's performed similarly. The way you install Netflix, the way you install VS Code, the way you install VLC player, the way you install your programs, that's the same way you install on those virtual machines. So it gives you that freedom as if you're having your own personal computer. But there is a draw line here, and that's why I'm going to the third one, dedicated hosting. All right, so let me bring back the image of that server again, so that I will use it to explain dedicated hosting for you. So in normal dedicated hosting, now before we come into all these advent of all these hosting companies like Amazon, which is the largest player in hosting services, we used to have NetBean, Netscape, Yahoo, the normal Yahoo, that Yahoo, yeah, we used to have them as providers. Okay, so the race was that all these providers, company will go and buy, before we started all these shared hosts, before we started shared hosts, VPS hosting, dedicated hosting was what was in vogue during the olden days. During the olden days, if you are into engineering, you have known that during the olden days, they waste a whole lot. So now, the largest player then, they are all these people, Netscape, Yahoo, and the rest. So what will happen is that if, for instance, when company like Google wanted to host their engines now, you go to all these provider, you go and buy physical laptop, go and buy for physical laptop. Laptop. You go and buy physical computer. So you go and buy it, and then you plug it in their office. It still look like this data center, like this. So you go and buy that physical, you plug it into their server, and then they will open up. You can see this guy, the way is this networking guy. So networking is sweet, if you're into networking. You can see this networking guy, what he's doing. Okay, so you go and configure your site on that server. That's the same similar way how dedicated hosting work. But the technology has improved. The difference between that olden days and now is that you don't need to go to Amazon in California and say you want to host now. You can simply just go to their website and say you want to dedicatedly host, and then they will give you infrastructure to host. So what is dedicated hosting? Dedicated hosting still works similarly as what I just explained now, by buying a whole suite of server and hosting it for yourself. So for instance, the IRF that we use for our last election now, all those were dedicatedly hosted. This one, a data center was built, I think in Abuja or thereabout, according to the story. And then all this computer, just the way you see the server room, was dedicatedly built and then configured for that project. And that is what is called dedicated hosting, where you have access to your machines. All right. So the other model now, which is one I was mentioning about, the likes of Amazon's, Google, Azure, which other company too? This company are the biggest player in this cloud hosting. So what does cloud hosting mean? When you hear put it in the cloud, put it in the cloud, what does it mean? All right. So when you put it in the cloud, the thing that they just do with cloud is that, okay, I'll come from the major angle of cloud hosting. The major angle of cloud hosting is one, money. Now, if you look at shared hosting, from what I discussed, the major headache with shared hosting is that is a pool of resources. Different people using that resources. So if a particular person is using a resources more than you, it will affect your own projects too. So every project on that network will be affected. So the site will slow. That's why sometimes when you load the site, you see it very, very slow. It will now be taking all the years to load. Because another user in that site is also using that site. That's a drawback with shared hosting. So what's VPS? VPS solve that, but the issue with VPS is that, for instance, you build your site at the initial stage when you build your site, only 10 people are visiting the site. Your site will be glorious. Let's now look when 100, 1,000 is visiting your site crash again. That's the advantage of VPS. Similarly with dedicated hosting too, that's the advantage of the two of them. Once you design for a specific number of users or a specific number of resources, it's not only user that make site to crawl, resources to make sites to crawl. For instance, if maybe for instance you build your website and your website you tell it to be calculating the GDP of the country every minute, you know, even without visiting that site is still working on background processes. So all those resources can also downplay your site. So now, what does cloud hosting solve? Cloud hosting solve this. It solve the issue of when a resources is limited, when a site resources is reached. Once you have reached your site, your resources limit, your site start crawling. That's what cloud hosting majorly solve. Let's build an elastic hosting service. That's why you start hearing EC2, Google Compute. You start hearing Azure. That's for Microsoft. Microsoft give you Azure. You heard EC2. That is what Amazon give you. Then you heard Google Compute. That's what Google gives you. So now, what they solve is that if as larger as you are using resources, let the system become larger. If you're not using larger resources, let the system become smaller. And that's why you start learning the word load balancing. You start hearing the word uh, optimizations, redundancy, all those kind of words. So that's what cloud computing and cloud hosting solve. So it's look at a particular instance, what are you consuming? If you have built your system in cloud hosting, if you are in the initial stage, if you have built your system, all you just need to build is to build your system. Initial stage, if one person is accessing your system, it will give, it will assign a resources of one person to that system, meaning you pay less. Unlike when you go and buy share hosting and you are buying for 10 users, and you find out that inside you buy for 10 users and only one user is using it, you see you're wasting money. Okay? Now, similar to VPS and dedicated hosting, if you design your system for 10,000 users and you find out that just one user or just 5 users is using it, you see you're wasting money. But let's not come to cloud hosting now. Cloud hosting where you become, there was this caption I saw one time like that. a man was seen sitting down in a park. There he was sitting down close to a beggar, and I asked the beggar, "What brings you to this state?" The beggar just telling that he wasn't serious with his life and the rest, and that is what brought him to the here. So the other one now asked, "Why are you here?" And I said, "He left EC2 on, and that's why he was here." So, in as much as we are preaching that cloud computing helps you to manage um, money, is a center where you consume much money. Because, for instance, in shareholders, if you have designed that 10 user to come to your server, and then maybe your budget to take care of 10 users, maybe you are running a free system, for instance. So if 10 users access it, or if 100 users access it, what just happens is that it's not allowing anybody to access it anymore, right? You still don't go over your budget. But in cloud computing, it doesn't work that way. If maybe your projection was that you projected that 10 people should access your system, and that was your budget, and you sleep and you wake up the next day, and 1 million people have accessed your system, cloud computing won't stop it on 1 million people. It will keep accumulating them. And as it's accumulating them, that's how they are removing your money overnight. You just wake up and you see your account, because most of these services, they tell you to link your cash to their platform. And as you link your card, they will even inform you, they will just remove the money from your bank account. So you might sleep with millions in your account overnight, and all those money has gone due to hosting. So that's just that does not mean that people are not doing cloud hosting. In fact, those are the major places that where people host. But there are other measures that you can put. I think there are some people that put scale. So once you reach that scale, you should stop increasing the size of the platform from use. And people put so many technology they've built around it to enable you to curb, so that you will not lose your money overnight because of you design the architecture for 10 people, because your solution was loud, over 1 million access rate, and then it's asking you to pay for more money. So there is already built around it for you to also manage your resources. But the major theory of the cloud computing is for you to be able to use resources as server demand. And that's the major solutions of cloud computing. Okay. Please, if you are following the class, just put a reaction on the chat that I'm following. Put a reaction on the chat that you are following the class. All right. Just put a reaction that you are following the class. Okay, so that's it about type of web hosting. Okay, so domain name. All right, so before we go to domain names, I want you to see some of the. Okay. All right, so domain name. Let's continue. So what does domain name means? There is no way you want to access any applications without calling it. Okay? So, for instance, if I come to a live class now and I'm looking for Michael, if I say Michael, I can have almost, say, in a class of 100, I can have almost 10 standing up as Michael. Okay? So, how do we do this? What else we had? We have surname. I'm looking for Michael Ogunshaki. Out of a class of 100, you see that the number will reduce. No time before it was 10, now it might reduce to maybe like 2 or 3. No, it still isn't able to still identify the Michael I'm looking for. So now if I can actually add the third name again, I'm looking for Michael Ogunshaki Joseph. You can see the number still reduce. Probably there's no way in class of 100, if you have added a third name, at least it has to be unique. But either way, you can still have a scenario where you added the third name and it's not still unique. you had from me. And that's what brings us to the theory of domain names. So now, when you come to domain names, for instance, if I go to, let's go to a domain registrar. So if I come to maybe Namecheap now, if I come to Namecheap now and I click on the domain, search for domain. All right. So if I put, I want my Michael. Michael used to be, is it E before E or either way? Just pardon. So if I put Michael now, if I search, you see that someone somewhere is already using Michael. You see now. Wow. Okay. Ah. Okay. The thing is that someone is already using Michael, but it's up for sale. Let me look for domain that's already used then. Unilorin. Oh, Unilorin will not be searchable here. Let me just Google host for it to be searchable. Google. 54. So, I'll say explain some business model for you. This hosting call with them. So let's aside for Unilorin here now. Unilorin.edu.ng. So you can see domain taking. Okay. So if I now had, maybe I had another prefix here, which is the second name, maybe two. So obviously, okay. So you can see it is available. All right. So one thing about domain is that it is it has to be unique and it's centrally based to everybody. So you have to find a combination that is unique. And that is why we have several extensions. So you can see here this is .edu. This one that is .edu. If you come back here, you see one is showing you .com. You see .me, .dev, .app, .inc, .io, .pro, XYZ, art, tech, online, link, live, is, SO. Several dot extension. The reason why we have this several dot extension is to have uniqueness of name. So for instance, if maybe I want by force by fire, actually I want Unilorin, I don't want to put two to it. I don't want to put two to it. I can just change my extension to .com. I'm very sure it's not available. Very sure. Yeah, very sure of that. All right, so if .com is not available, so see, so it's telling you that .co.coza is available. You learn .org. Wow, surprisingly, .org is available. Wow. All right, so these are the one that is available. You can see the uniqueness in it, and so that is what. So what domain name help you to have is to locate your file. So now let's look at the theory behind the domain name now. How does the domain name work? So there is what is called domain name registers. There is like a register book, just like when you went to secondary school, when they will bring register books, and when they call the name finish, and you notice that your name is not there, you start knowing that you're not the student of that school. Or when you really enter University of Ilorin and they place maybe a result or something, and your name is not there. I know all those things is not minimized now. You don't go to school doing this. By that time, you already have the sense that, oh, we are not even admitted, and so on. So there is a register where all these things is being registered and is central to everybody. And so what they do is that they map your domain name to your IP address and to your DNS record. So in domain name, there's records you create. There is a record. A record is for your website. There is MX uh, for your email server. There is CMail. CNAME for maybe you're using a kind of a hard-on name, or you're using like a additional domain to your servers. There is AA, triple A record. So all these records are what ties your name to your site by the IPs and then by the DNS resolver. So these are what ties your domain to your IP. So for instance, if I come here now and I go to visit unilorin.edu now, unilorin.edu. So it comes there because of it is resolved to come to this site. Is that some sites when you click on them, they take time to load. Some of the issue can be between this their domain to get itself resolved to where the site is hosted. And that is why when you want to host, for instance, when you go to hosting providers and you want to host, they always advise you host closer to your customer. Closer to your customer. For instance, if you are hosting with in Google Host now, I think okay. For instance, what happened is that I don't think all these big companies have data center in Africa. But the only thing I know of Google is that it has what is called access points. And in Africa, it has two, I don't know if they have replaced it by now, but it has two access points. There is one in Lagos, one in Johannesburg, that is South Africa. So those access points, what they do with it is that it's like a domain resolvers. So if you are hosting and your resolver is far from you, it will take time to be able to go to the server of your resolver, resolve it, point it back. Well, all those things happen in milliseconds, but it is take time, and that is why sometimes when you load your site, it becomes slow to go because your domain is trying to resolve itself and find itself. You need to appropriate. You need to appropriate server. Okay. All right. So we have looked at domain register. So we look at registrar. So domain registrar, we have both at the name queue. These are just simple. So you see find out that this registrar are still hosting providers because they suit. Why building separate company for buying domain and building separate company for hosting? Let's have it together. That's why we have them together. But it's different services altogether. When you say I want to host a site, it's different from I'm buying domain. They are two different things. So you can host a site and be using the IP address. For instance, if you go to there are some sites that they just use an IP address. They don't want to buy domain for it. Since is what is since is what is what they want. So I think this one is my local system. But there are some sites that you can use IP address to access them. They don't want to buy domain. Okay, because of maybe it's not in their budget or something. All right, so they don't want to buy domain name. So they just use their IP address to access their site. But if you want to buy domain name, it's different from hosting. You go and buy the domain name. Gloriousbrightfuture.com. My success CBT and the rest. So you buy those name and then you register it and then you link it to your file. And you can get them from GoDaddy, Namecheap, other company like Bluehost. So you just look for the one that suits your budget and you buy from them because all of them have different budget and different things they provide for you. So we have talked about DNS record and server. All right, so what is deployment? What is deployment? Having written your code, now let's say you've written your code, you buy domain name, host it to you have gotten it. How do will I just go to my system, copy my file, hit control, right click on copy, and then I'll go to the hosting server and click on paste. Is that the next thing to do, or how will I do it? Now, this scenario I just explained now, yes, you can do that. But when you are coming to um, building and managing sites, we technically don't do that directly. And reason being that majorly if you are working in a big project, just like you are not the only one doing it, there might be conflicts. Maybe you went to go and change the header to blue. You beat your own to be blue. The company say they want red, and you couldn't do it. So they ask another person to do it. When you now come back, your own that was still red. You just went to go and copy your own and paste it on this thing. You know that one I have changed it to blue. And the time when you're not around, you have updated this code. So there will be conflict in the organization. So for conflict not to happen, that is why we have to go through deployment processes. And there are different ways to deploy your site. Now, the first scenario I just explained, which is you go to your file, you copy and paste. Yeah, there are tools that you can use to do that because it's not directly that you just go and copy and paste. So we have tools like FileZilla. You just copy and paste. You can just go to your FileZilla for one server, copy and paste. For example, if I open FileZilla now, let me open FileZilla. You see how FileZilla works. So if I open FileZilla now, so this is the interface for FileZilla. So if you see FileZilla, you see that it looks like your normal file management system, right? So it looks like your normal file management system. Yeah. So in this side is your local system. This is my computer. So all these are projects I'm working on. These are your computer system. But this side that is empty now is the online platform I want to host on. So if I'm connected to any online platform, I can just right click here and okay, so I can because I'm not connected, I can just drag this and come and paste it here. Easy peasy. And it's going to upload it for me. But let's look at how what this kind of guy does. What it does is that it uses a protocol called it uses a protocol called FTP, which is file transfer protocol. Then there is FFPT, which is a safe file transfer protocol. So these are protocol. You know, the way you go to your website now and you type www.unilorin.ng.com and you go here, that protocol is called HTTP, either HTTP or HTTPS. That's the protocol handling that. Okay, the way you go to your system now, right? And you click your file explorer icon and it's open. There's a protocol handling that. Those are for people that are doing if you're doing networking, you need that idea, you need to do some understanding. Majorly, if you're doing networking, you need this. If you're going to do server management, what other things? Those people that build OS2 operating system, you need to understand what protocol means. So, but the one you are familiar with, so there are different protocols, but the one you are familiar with are the one of HTTPS, TCP, common with all those ones. So the protocol that the FileZilla is now using is that file transfer protocol that helps you to transfer file. And that's the major protocol that we use to transfer our files to online. Okay. So now let's look at okay. So let's look at the other deployments procedures. So we have Git based. So now, the earlier conflict I was talking about, it's being resolved by Git. Those people that attend my last class, the code that we shared, I shared it via GitHub. So all you just need to do is to create an account on GitHub and share. So if you have access to the GitHub account, you will be able to share your code among yourself. Okay, and so that's that deployment process that we can take. So if you are using Vercel, Netlify, you can host your, you can deploy your code through that means. So that project that we worked on last week. So let's look at how we can deploy it on GitHub now. I believe my screen is shared. So if you go to GitHub, so if I go to GitHub, what's the name of the project we worked on last week? See even here. Okay. Okay, so after this class, I will employ everybody. If you don't have GitHub accounts, try to go and create an account for yourself. So what GitHub help? There was a story I heard of someone that I think it was on GitLab. This is a GitHub. So this GitHub is hosted by is owned by Microsoft. Microsoft have the largest share of it. Then GitLab, I think, is hosted by a Canada-based company. Then we have Bitbucket owned by Atlas. Okay, so what happened with that developer was that GitLab, I think they just launched that year. So GitLab used this thing that you are seeing now. So anywhere you see tick green, the thicker the green, the thicker the deployment I did for that day. So this is my history. So I have history with them since 2021. So I've opened my account since 2021. So if you look at this history here, if you look at this history here, I didn't do any deployment not until November, December 2021. So if you look at 2022 too, I didn't do majorly develop. Okay, I did some deployment. So you can see January there was deployment. Can you see this thicker green? Meaning I did a whole lot of deployment. The thicker the green. So the story was that the when I look at the guys' deployment, they saw that, look at my 2025. You can see my deployment 2025. So they saw that the thing was very, very thick green. Like almost everything was thick green for that year, and the guy really developed. It was one of their highest person that deployed using their GitLab that year. And because of that, they invited him, and then they gave him a job in Canada. So, and there are some other people that also do all these things. Like for instance, if you are going for a job interview, before they pick your CV, this is what they'll just come and check. They'll just check what's your activities here. And that's what they will use to filter your application out. Once they just look at your activities, okay, you join GitHub since 2003. That's what some of them will say, send us your GitHub. And they just check all your activities that you do within the year. And they will look at it. So those people that have the thicker they are going or the thicker they see them deploying. So those are the people that they will now invite for interview. So you say, I know 2024 was quite busy for me. So you can see how much I put. I think the early, what happened? The early, okay. I'll still celebrate, okay. So you can see, starting from November 2023, I was off coding. so you can see run up to. So with this, they were able to know your development lifestyle. They were able to with this they can I can know for now I can tell myself okay for this period though, I didn't do maybe development. So these are what job interview usually that's when you see that oh what are you not doing all those times. These are what they will use to read your metrics when they are giving you job interview and the rest. So another reason why as a developer, you have to be pulling every day. So the whole of January, I didn't do anything from November to January. I didn't make any push. But look at my 2025, you can see it has been busy too. Look at 2024, it has been busy right from March. It has been busy till 2025. Okay. If you can look at March, you can see March is less thicker. So March, I was not really working during the period of March. But you can see the rest, they are more thicker green. So these are things that people, job recruiter usually use to evaluate when they want to recruit you for job. You will not, they won't even tell you about it, but they will just use it to filter out your CV. And so that's why you need to be familiar with GitHub. And you set up your GitHub account very well. I'm highly skilled and versatile software developer, where range expertise all programming skills, proficient in. So if you view my profile, you'll be able to see it very well and everything. So you should know that. So back to our course, I just give you a bonus they say as young developers are aspiring to be. So let's go back to what we want to do today. We did do okay, I've seen it. Yeah. So last week we worked on You Inspire uh, site. Okay. So now I want to know how the deployment works on GitHub. So I want to believe that okay, let me not leave any stone unturned. This is just 11 7. Still have money to cover. So to create your account, simply just go to github.com. You fill in the form, normal. Fill in the form, then you create the account. So once you are done, oh, are we supposed to do git command here? Learn git command. It's easy. The super, you just need to know 3 git command in your whole life. Then the rest you can be knowing them later if you need them. But in your whole life, you just need to know 3 command, 3 git command, and yeah, no, and okay, let's make it 4 because of uh, people that. So you just need to know this git command in your whole life. Let me make it, let me make the screen bigger so those of us can see the. All right, so I'm sure it's bigger enough for us to see. So, like I said, you just need to know some few. There are so many git commands. So you just need to know git clone and the URL. So this git clone, what it does is that it pull your resources. So for instance, if I want to put these resources to my server now, I'll come and copy this URL there, okay, and I'll go to my terminal. You should know terminal as a developer. You should know what terminal is. Okay, you should know what terminal is. I go to my terminal. Let me open my terminal in the folder I want it to be open. So I want my terminal to be open in this folder. So those of us that is using Windows 10, we might just go to okay, for the sake of those people that are using Windows 10, let me just so you just open your terminal, you open your command prompt. Okay, so you need to. I'm sure I'm talking to people that are potential developer head. So all these things should not be named. So I should not be telling you everything. But just because of I understand that some people at least they have first class in web development. So let me just take everything step by step. So for instance, I want to host that my site in my desktop. I've created a folder already. You can see the way I'm navigating, right? Then I want to host it in where should I do it? I think this is a Mac Techie. Yes, Mac Techie. Yes. So web, yes. So you inspire, yes. Yes, so I want to, okay, I already have you inspire, yes. So let me let me change this name to soon. But that's the same name that my that the GitHub will also name the folder. So let me go back to my so to go to here, just copy the part. You copy this part and you come to this place and you paste this part. So all this one should not be new. So what you do now, the first command I said git what? Git clone. Then you paste the URL I will just copy it. Okay? No, 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 not you. So git clone, let's copy it again. So if you go to your GitHub, you can see code, you see code, you click on it. You can either download a zip file or if you want to clone it. So you click on there's three methods of cloning. There's one for HTTPS, there's one for SSH, there's one for uh, Git CLI. So but the one that I want to use is HTTPS. You copy it, you paste it, and then you clone it. So our code is already cloned already now. So we can see into it, or let's open it on our editor. So let's open it on our editor. So you can use any of the editor. So by now, I think we should have been able to install editor on our system. So let's open the project. Inspire. Okay. So this is our Inspire. If we go to our website for now, you can see how our website look like. So this is how our website look like after last week. I thought we added more content. Okay, so apparently we added more content, but it was not pushed. So let's go back to our previous site. All right, so we added more content last week. So now, as you can see, so what will happen is, as you can see, this is the site we developed, but the one that is online currently does not have this. So let's push this one to update our GitHub. So let's look at our GitHub records. If you look at our GitHub, it mentioned that the last update was last week. If you want to track your pool, So now let's try to update this particular one. So to do that, what you do is that we can use the inbuilt terminal here. So let's use the inbuilt terminal here to do that. So I'm just going to do this, close this. I'm just going to delete this one. Yes. And change this name back. Yes, I'm looking my VS Code back. All right, so I want my VS Code back. So now I want to update this our code to the online server. So how do we do that? We come to terminal. So you can just click on this icon. It's going to have the CMD. So you come to your terminal. So let's look at the next git command. Now I'm giving you one git command already. So the next one I'll give you is git add. Okay. So this one is to commit. So the next git command is git commit. Git commit. So make comment. You inspire web commit. Okay, so the last command is push. So these are the commands you need to know in GitHub for anything you want to do. So now if you come to GitHub now, so if you open GitHub now, you can see that if I refresh, so if I refresh, you can see that it shows me that I committed now, and the little description I put is also there. Okay, so now let's go to where we are going to deployment. So now I want to deploy this site on GitHub. So how do I do that? So if I click on settings, I will click on pages. I'll click on deploy from branch. Yes. I'll switch to main. I think it's root. So let's see. We're not customizing any domain. So, blah, blah, blah. Best music for classic experience. I don't know how to handle CTS you. Custom domain allow you to sell yourself for rather than McGeorge.io. Convert custom domain. Start with about this. I don't know this custom domain. I don't want custom domain. I don't want custom domain. So let's check our site. I don't want custom domain. I don't want custom domain. Let's refresh. Still building it. All right, so it's done building it. So let's view it now. So you have to wait for some minutes for it to build your site. So let's visit the site. So as you can see, our site is built, but why is it picking? It's not picking our new deployment. So let's see, deploy by 1 minute ago. Let's see. We don't want to publish the site. We want the site to publish our new development. Okay. I know it, so it's publishing it. So the issue is that we didn't make homepage the index file, so it's published. So you can just navigate to homepage by yourself from here, so you can see. So I think I did mention in one of the class that the first page you want when you go to your site, the first page you want it to load, you label it as index file. So if you look at our home code here, you see the index file is this. So when you load the site, it load that index file and not what we do. So that's why. So this site is now being hosted. So that's how to simply deploy your site on GitHub. So if I share this link now, it's going to be accessible to everyone online. So that's how to easily deploy your site. So if I deploy sites, but this only works for static site though. It only works for static site. It works more with static site. Okay. All right. So we've looked at how to deploy on how to deploy on yeah. So look at how to deploy on GitHub. So the other place you can also look at is Vercel and Netlify. So you all this one, you just create an account. I think they have free version for it. Just create an account and then you deploy your code directly from them. First time. Our time is fast. All right, so it's easy to use. If you want to deploy on Netlify or Vercel, you just use it directly. So we look at CI/CD, which is continuous integration and continuous development. What does this two mean? It means that how can we automate deployment? For instance, if you look at how I deploy now, I had to go and git push, git pull, and I have to go and click a button to make it. How can we do this automatically? So that is what automation is talking about. So we can look at GitHub Actions and GitLab CPI. Then we have other tools like DevPilot, CDLs. All those tools help you to do your automatic deployment. Then what is Docker? All right. So for those of you that we expand your visions into back-end building bigger applications, you have to do Docker. For instance, for people that work on different projects, for instance, I work on a project, it requires PHP version 7. I'm working on another project, it requires PHP version uh, version 8. Now, what will I do in those things? Is that anytime I want to work on the one of version 7, I will go to my system, and you know how crazy it is to be setting all those stuff. I will change it to version 7. When I want to work on 8, I will change it to 8. If I want to work on the two of them at once, I can't because I have to be switching the PHP version. So to solve that, they brought what is called containerization. Containerization helps you to containerize your app and create like a virtual environment for them, for them to have their own mini system. So I don't need to switch. What I was in that in that container is that I declare what I want it to host in that container. So I want it to run on version 7. I want that to run on version 8, and it will obey it. That means I have to go and be switching my system. So that's what containerization is, and that's what we do with containerization setup. So if you are looking at the deployment side of containerization, we look at Docker. So Docker enables us to deploy it, what we containerize, or we use Kubernetes in Google console. We use Kubernetes in Google console and how to set them up. All right, so what are the popular hosting? So we discussed this. It talks about Okay, based on what I explained the other time, I stated it. Share those. Better you go with Blue Hosting, go with HostGator, go to Site Origin, go with GoDaddy, Namecheap, Google Host, Hub, 52 Go. All those people there, they are very very good in shared host. They will have cloud hosting, which I explained last time also. So the biggest player is AWS, closely followed by Azure. Then we can now call Google Cloud. Then the other players are similar, Digital Oceans and the rest. Then how to host. So for instance, like the one we just host now, the website we just host now is we host it on GitHub. But they work more with static site. What we mean by static stack is site that does not put their database in them majorly. That's what we mean by static site. So we use GitHub to host static site, just the one we just posted now, as has been explained. We have Netlify and Vercel. Then we have managed hosts. What does managed host means? There are some system has built web development tools like the way you have your Photoshop and the rest. There are some tools that you can use to Photoshop your website. Tools like WordPress, Wix, Kishna. There are so many in market. And Banker. There are plenty in market. Joomla. So all those things, they offer special. Some sites offer special hosting for them because of the nature of how they work. So you can use those special hosting services to manage that. Okay. So we have website development workflow. So how does in real life how does it work to deploy a site? The first step is what build your site, which we have been doing for the past few months. We'll be building our site. What's the next options? Choose a hosting type. Oh, that reminds me. Please, your project, you have to host it on GitHub based on this explanation. So please go and watch that part again. That's the main reason why I took the pain to explain how to host on GitHub. So your project, you have to host it on GitHub and you share the GitHub link and the GitHub repo for us. That's how you are sharing your project. So please go and check your project and then you post it that way. So your project, you have to host it on GitHub. Just the way I described it, host it on GitHub that way. Okay, so the next thing is that you choose your hosting provider. So I'm giving you a real life scenario of how you host now. So I haven't built your site. The next thing is that you log into your hosting server. So let's do that scenario. Let's see. We are going to do all this scenario, still have our time at home. So let's do this case scenario now. All right, so the first thing is to build your website, which we have done, right? So the next thing is that choose hosting type and provider. So based on our discussions, so let's go to which one should we use? Which one should we use? Which one should we use? Okay, let's use a Namecheap. I think we have. So the first flow is go and build your site. The second flow is choose what hosting server. So like I explained, your pocket will determine what you want to do. Let your pocket lead you. So that's the best advice I will give. So let your pocket lead you. So we are hosting. So you can see that managed hosting I talk about. So this is a managed hosting. This hosting is only for WordPress alone. So these are managed hosting. So I've opened dedicated servers here. So let me open it. So when it comes to hosting, let your pocket be your guidance to choose. That's just it. So if your client can afford it, so this one is, you can see this one is just about $2 per month. $2 times 12. My math. That's around $24. Right? $24 times 2,000. That's how much? Right? So that's the amount. So it's very, very cheap. So let's go to the next one that is cheap. Okay. This VPS, this one is almost $7. The guy I'm picking the list price. I'm not even consider the what they are offering. I'm just picking the list price. So, like I said, when you are choosing hosting, these are the things you look at. You look at this feature. Look at this feature. What is it giving you? Look at this feature. What is it giving you? Then what is your requirement for your client? For instance, if you come and buy this one now for Unilorin, throughout your experience with them, if you are the client that you are hosting them for them, you will never sleep. You will never sleep. That's just my summations because every minute the VC will be calling you, our site is down. Our site is down. So those are the things that makes you know why you want to choose any plan. So you can look at this one, and this one is offering 30 space, 30 space, AI builder, website and domain. Whereas this one that is $6, what is it offering? It's offering see, in the other one, it's not even talking about two CPU core. It's not talking about RAM. The other one, when we went to go and check, because you are not the only one using that system. But this one now, you are the one using the system, you can see it's already talking about RAM for you and the rest. So let's look at dedicated hosting now. So what's the difference? So you can see dedicated postings. What is it talking about? So you can see. So dedicated hosting added. If you look at it, the feature that dedicated hosting added that is different from VPS is this gigahertz processing power. Can you see processing power? That's just the only difference between VPS and dedicated hosting. Because in VPS, you are still not buying a machine. You are just buying a virtual machine. You are still not buying a physical machine. I just if you have come early, you have understand what I'm saying now. You are just buying. But in dedicated hosting, you are buying an actual computer system. Those of you that know computer very much, you know what gigahertz means. When you have something that is 3.4 gigahertz, you know what it means. Those of you that are into system. And there's some of our system at 1 point something, 2.4, all this kind of stuff. But this one is giving 3 gigahertz. So you understand what is. So when you are talking about dedicated hosting, you're actually buying a system. Or just that the system is still not you that owns it. Just buying the space. All right. So which one? Last one. I'm going to open the last one. All right. So based on your pocket, no, you can pick anyone. So, but for the case of this our demonstration, we've already have one hosting. So let me just connect. Let's try to connect that hosting if it allows us to. All right, so thank God it allows us to. All right, so we have a stellar plan, which is a shared host. So currently we are using a shared host. So let's go back to our slide. Our slide said the first step is so choose your hosting type. So we have chosen our hosting type based on our pocket and what our client work. And currently, what our client work in this scenario is test. We want to test. That's what our client worked. So we have chosen our hosting plan. So the next is say register a domain name. So how do we register a domain name? So we go to so currently we have chosen our hosting service. So we need to register our domain name. So you go back to you click on domain name. Save. So this is what is involved in hosting your site. So I'm just using them for everything. So you can use any provider. They follow similar procedure. Please, if you are following the class, just put a thumbs up or a reactions on the page that you are following. Thank you. So you said, so we want to find you inspire. You, I'm going to spell it. You and inspire. Yeah. .com. Are we following the class? All right, thank you, Victor. No, it's the only Victor that is in this class. Please, Put it on the chat if you are following. All right, Baraka, thank you. Favor, thank you. Okay, so all right. Unfortunately, Inspire is not available. But either whether it's available or not, I don't have money to spend. So when you just buy your hosting, if you go to your account, if you are using this provider, if you go to your account, you go to your domain list, you can see your domain that is active here. So for this class, we are going to use. So let's assume that we just bought. Which one should we use? Oh, 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 oh. Okay, let's use. Oh, all right, so let's use let's just use this any of this one. Which one is okay? So now the next step on our slide said. So now we've got our domain. So the next step said connect your domain to your hosting server. So how do we do that? So if you go to your hosting server now, some of them provide something like this. So if you have something like this, it's called cPanel. Some of them have different panel, each panel and the rest. So to connect that, you go to domain. So you can just use this search bar and search for domain. Okay, so it opens domains up. So just to connect it, you just click on create new domain. That's just it. And it's great. But currently we don't have. So let's create a subdomain instead. So let's use this. You need to be solo. You are. I mean, you inspire. You inspire. Enter the domain you would like to create. No, we are creating a subdomain now. Dots. No, it's not allowing us. So what is behaving like this? I want to create a subdomain. Yes. This domain already exists. So allow us to write you you inspire dots. Yes, she's allowing us to put it down. So we want to create your a folder. So we now click on what submit. So why is creating the domain? What's the next step? The next step says deploy. Okay, connect your server to your host. So now the next step says deploy your file via FTP or Git. So we are going to use Git in this class, and I'm going to show us FTP. So I think that's created. Thank God. Okay, so how do we use Git in this scenario? So we go to um, terminal. Okay, you go to terminal. We'll go to terminal, yeah. Yeah, so when we are on terminal, we have to locate, just like the way we locate our file, so we have to locate our file. So ls, those of you that are system, Linux-based system, what are we looking for? We are looking for Unilorin, so this is it here. So we seed into you, 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 where is it again? You inspire. Yeah, okay, so that's it. So we are already in our direction of being inspired. So the next step now is that we have to clone our project into it. We have to clone our project into it. So how do we clone it? Just simply by copying what? Uh, by copying that link, just like the way we did it offline. So the simple command is what? Git clone, right? Yeah, so the simple command is by doing git clone. So let me let me copy the URL and just git clone. Paste. So that's just it, git clone. Okay, enter. All right, so we have successfully been able to clone it. So the other thing is that currently that we clone it, Git will always create a folder. So you can either do if you are this computer person, you can do your CP. You can do CP and copy it to the root directory, CP copy. Or based on people that are not too tech, so let me do it to our level. So what I would just advise is you go to this folder. Let me do it to our level so that it won't be coding every time. So to our level, what you just do is that you go to your file. So this is your file. So you click on File Manager. Okay, so once your File Manager opens, you go and look for that your folder. So you can see our folder. Where's our folder? Should be down, right? These are our folder. So you can see you inspired that is flowing. So you want to move it out. So just click on Select or Move. Then move it out. Okay, so we can go back. So we can do this folder. Yeah. So what I will have copied is what's the next line saying? So the next line said, okay, so we've deployed via Git, right? So the next line says set up CSS and basic security. Then monitor and maintain your site. So before you even set up security, let's test if our site works. So the simple way to test it is by what? By visiting the site. Correct, yeah, correct. So how do we visit the site? By going to the domain name. So let's hope that the domain name was resolved and done. So yeah, it was resolved. So let's change this. We don't want this one to be our index page. So let's change this from being indexed to this one to be indexed. So this one should be called test. Let's name it to test. Okay. So we want this to be the one that will load anytime we click our page. So we change it to index. All right, so we'll come back. You can see when I'm making maintenance to my code now, right? I still go back to deploy it to push it again. So that will be what the three command: git add, git push with changing. So changing. Let's put a nice comment. Changing our index page. Okay. So I will emphasize again, this class is very, very crucial to your project because you need it to git push. You need it to deploy your project. Okay, so we'll go back to and redeploy again. We come back to our terminal and we pull again. What's the problem? So we got disconnected. So git pull. All right, so if you come back to our site now, there's our site. There's our site. Where are you? Yes, these are our sites. You inspire, and so if you refresh now, so we can see that our site is fully deployed now. Okay. So what's the last thing? The last thing is security and maintenance. So if you look at our site, it's not currently secure. So we can do the security of it. Yeah. So uh, all of the best practice, use version control. You can see how easy for us to easily change anything that we want to change without any ick. There is no version control. Back up your site regularly, especially if you are doing database system. Always back up your system up. Enable SSL certificate. We will have done in this class, but many time has gone. Then optimize your image and CSS file for speed. So always use lazy loading for your image so that your site will not keep loading because your image has not loaded. So we encourage lazy loading. They always do monitor. They always use CDN for global performances. Always use CDN higher than you. For instance, if you are using Bootstrap, don't download Bootstrap script. Use the CDN because it is much well optimized than you downloading the file. All right, conclusions. Choose based on your budget, like I said. Anytime you want to choose any plan, consider the budget of your client. You don't, if you want to deploy for Yusuf now, okay, Yusuf still have money. I want to deploy for which all those Yusuf still has change now, so you can still deploy. If you want to deploy for your favorite place that used to eat your food now, if you want to deploy for them, I am telling you that they should come and be paying millions just for deployment. How much you that work that project you want to do? Instead of you to collect 50K for Yahoo and Bell, and you go and buy server that is not more than 10,000 naira, and you pocket 40K, it makes sense. So consider your budget anytime you want to choose any hosting server. But if you want to host for item 7, why not? Item 7 has tens of millions. So you can go and buy big hosting and then you can be able to pocket millions too. So consider your budget. The hosting and deployment are essential in getting sites online. So please note this, that not just that you want to host, you go and copy your files and then you put, then when you want to update, it's not becoming an issue. Ensure you follow the right standard of deployment. Then automate and when possible for reliable and speed. Learn to use automation. For instance, we now, if you look at the way we didn't even set up CBI, when I push to GitHub, I have to still go and pull again. It's supposed not to be so. You can automate those processes. Once I push on my local server, it should deploy automatically, which limit time and distance and help you to work faster. And the rest, those are the best practice how to do. And that brings us to the end of today's class. Thank you so much. If you have questions, please, the floor is open.
Okay. Do we have any questions? So while we're expecting questions, let's fill in the attendances. We have not done that. So there's a question here, Mr. Joshua. Person is asking for what a local server is and how they are going to host their project.
All right, thank you, Mr. Barak. All right, so local server is your computer system where you are writing your own personal code. So, for instance, all this project that we have been doing all this while, we've been doing it on our own local systems. Okay. So, for deployment now, which is the other part. So now that you want to work in a group of 30 people, you are expected to have a central GitHub. So maybe your group lead, your group captain can create a group GitHub and make it private, and then invite all of you to that repo. So once you are invited to that repo, you can start writing and committing your code and share your code within each other and ensure there is no conflict. You should work on separate branches and the rest. So please work on separate branches and you merge so that there will not be conflict in your pull and merge processes. So once you merge, you will, based on this video, so go and watch this video and check out the part where I explain how to deploy with GitHub. So you deploy your code on GitHub. That's for the project. So when you deploy your project on GitHub is now online and is accessible for everyone. That is when you have posted your code base. But if your code is still, your code that's in your system is what is regarded as local server because you are localizing your development on your server. Yes. What was the next question?
Do we have any other questions? So if we have any other questions, you can still ask before the session ends. We'll be ending the session by 12 p.m. the dot. Okay, so I guess we can end the session now. So let's complete our projects on time and also post it on GitHub as said. So you can watch the recording either on YouTube or on Zoom to know how to post our projects on GitHub. So thank you for coming once again and do enjoy the rest of your weekend.